Good Friday afternoon. It's nice and sunny out, but looks like it's not going to stay that way for long. And that means the best home buying season of the year is upon us. So typically, a few things happen this time of year. One is it gets cold, and everyone thinks, I guess it's not going to be nice forever. Maybe we should hurry up and buy a house before we find ourselves moving in 17 feet of snow. So that's one of the reasons why we want to talk today about whether it's a good time to buy or not. And as you can see, I'm solo today. I'm Ruth Sheahan with eXp Realty. Danielle is otherwise engaged. So it's all me talking to myself, unless you guys chime in and throw some comments in here that I get to respond to. So please do. Much as I love to hear myself talk, I'd prefer a little interaction. So if you guys think there's some reason why right now is a good time to buy a house, drop it in the comments. And I am, if you know me and you know Danielle, we are not the Pollyannas who run around constantly saying, this is the best time to buy a house. It's a good time to buy or sell. Now, there are people for whom it's always a good time to buy or sell because it really needs to be about your criteria for your home. But it isn't always the best time to do one or the other. And typically, it's a better time to do one at one time, and then it tends to flip flop. So that's kind of a predicament as well, because most people are trading homes. So they're moving from one to another. So if you're buying and selling in the same market and the market is high, you are going to buy high and sell high. If the market is low, you're going to buy low, sell low. Everyone loves the idea, of course, of buying low and selling high, but it doesn't always make real sense. And it's not always possible because markets go up and down. And I keep saying, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be slinging houses. I would be on a beach somewhere. So we never know what's coming, but we do know whether you are living in the right place for yourselves and the people who live with you. And that's really the criteria you have to go by. So, one of the reasons, as I said, is the weather is shifting. So, if you need to move or want strongly to move and you want to do it soon, you really want to do it now before the snow flies. You've still got time to get most of the transaction underway. And the best thing about it is that other people are busy doing other things. So that huge, crazy, frenzy demand we saw in the spring that made it so hard to buy a house isn't happening much now. Now, that doesn't mean that in one house that's really perfect, that everybody's going to love, that's underpriced, that could still happen. But for the most part, if you're looking at a house in this market right now, today, you're going to have far less competition than you would have had 6 or 8 months ago. So that puts you in a good position to take a little bit of time. There were a lot of people who felt that they had to rush in and buy anything that came even close to what they were looking for. You're not going to have to do that. Typically, we say that you have less competition, but you also have fewer choices. But right now, I'm not sure that's true. In the spring, we had very few choices. People were making 5-minute showing appointments. People were allowing people to come into a house for 5 minutes and look at it and decide whether they wanted to spend many hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. That's not happening now. You can see a house, you might even have a chance to have a second showing before you put an offer in. You're going to be able to have a thorough inspection. You're going to be able to quantify the results of that inspection and decide whether you're going to ask the seller for some things. You're going to be able to negotiate back and forth, most likely, as long as there isn't another buyer. And by the way, there are still lots of buyers out. They didn't go anywhere. So we can't rule out any competition, but it's certainly not as fierce as it was. So all of those things are great, but this time of year is always a really good time to buy a house. Typically, you have some people who came on the market in the last couple of months, And maybe they overpriced to begin with. Maybe they were a little bit over optimistic. Or, maybe just typical fall demand is not as strong as it is in the spring. And maybe it's taking a little bit longer to sell. Probably a relatively normal amount of time to sell, but by comparison, it seems long. So you get to come in and take a little bit of advantage of that situation. Again, we've gone over the statistics many times in our little program here. We are not even close to being in a buyer's market, but buyers have a lot more leverage than they did in the spring. So one of the things I almost always find is that the smart move with the economic part of this transaction. So, we have the emotional part of moving, and we have all of the practicalities that's not financial. But if you just look at the financial part, much like the stock market, it usually makes sense to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. So if people were making financial decisions about buying and selling houses, then everyone would have sold their house in the spring. That was the best selling market, difficult and frenetic and crazy, but financially, the best selling market we've ever seen. So if everyone was practical, they would have all sold their house in the spring. That didn't happen. As a matter of fact, we had an incredibly low number of people, an incredibly low percentage of people selling houses in the spring. Why is that? Because they also had to buy, and because they weren't quite ready, because they hadn't, gone through whatever it was that they needed to go through in their personal life to be prepared to make that big jump. So people didn't sell. Well, right now, I'm telling you, if you're in the market to buy, and if everything else makes sense, this is a great time to buy a house. Also, you may not know this if you're not on the email list of 17 lenders like I am, or have a couple of really good lenders who actually call you or send you a video explaining things like this. But yesterday, mortgage rates dropped a larger percentage, I guess it is, than ever before. So there was a huge drop in rates. Rates have and probably will remain relatively volatile, so we certainly can't call this a trend. But if you were all ready to go out and look at a house, that would be a great time to do it. Find a house, get under contract, lock that rate, and you could be considerably better off than you would have been last week or a month ago, or who knows what the future holds. So those are all really good reasons to think about buying a house right now. We can also position it and plan it so we work around any holidays that you want to have either in one home or the other. This is the perfect time to actually get to pick that and get out there when the competition is not as fierce. Everybody else is distracted. Take advantage. All right, I will see you next week. Danielle will be back with me. And if you're a realtor, I'm going to talk to realtors about this on our realtor channel on YouTube. Search for my name, Ruth Sheahan, and look for the Raise the Bar logo. See you over there.